The Bible is full of powerful words. It holds stories, songs, and prayers that have spoken to people for thousands of years. One of these is Psalm 109. This is not a gentle song of praise. It is a raw and honest cry from a human heart in deep pain. It is a prayer written by King David, a man who knew great victory but also profound betrayal. He felt surrounded by enemies, people who spoke lies about him and wished for his downfall. In his desperation, he did not turn away from God. Instead, he turned toward God, pouring out all of his anger, his fear, and his hurt. He held nothing back. This psalm is what we call an imprecatory psalm. That is a big word for a simple idea, a prayer that calls for justice against one's enemies. It can be hard to read these words today. They can seem harsh, even vengeful, but they show us something incredibly important about faith. They show us that God is strong enough to handle our most difficult emotions. We don't have to pretend to be perfect or happy when we come to Him in prayer. We can be honest. We can bring our brokenness, our anger, and our desire for things to be made right. God can handle it all, and He listens. As we walk through this prayer together, we will see David's journey. He begins with a plea for God not to be silent while wicked people attack him with their words. He feels completely alone, betrayed by those he once treated with kindness and love. The injustice of it all is a heavy weight on his soul. This feeling is something many of us can understand. We have all felt misunderstood or unfairly treated at some point in our lives. David's words give a voice to that pain, showing us that even a great king felt wounded and vulnerable, just like any of us. Understanding this psalm is about more than just reading the words. It is about feeling the emotion behind them. It is about seeing a man at his lowest point, holding on to his faith as his only lifeline. He is not just asking for revenge. He is asking for vindication. He is asking for God to show the world that He is on the side of the righteous. David's ultimate trust is not in his own strength, but in God's power to deliver and to restore. This prayer is a powerful reminder that even in our darkest moments, we are never truly alone, and our honest cries are always heard. David begins his prayer with a direct plea. He says in verse 1, "My God whom I praise, please do not stay silent." He is praising God, but he is also in desperate need of a response. He feels the silence deeply because, as he explains in verse 2, "Wicked and deceitful people have opened their mouths against me. They have told lies about me with their tongues." These are not just small untruths. They are destructive lies meant to ruin his reputation and his life. He is being attacked by words which can often cut deeper than any sword. He needs God to speak truth into the silence. The feeling of betrayal grows stronger. In verse 3, David continues, "They have surrounded me with words of hatred. They attack me for no reason at all." Imagine being circled by people who despise you, and you have done nothing to deserve it. This is the loneliness David feels. Then, in verse 4, he reveals the deepest wound. "In return for my friendship, they accuse me, but I am a man of prayer." He had offered them love and friendship, and they repaid him with cruelty. His only response, his only defense, is to turn to God in prayer. He chooses faith over retaliation. His pain is clear in verse 5, where he states, "They repay me with evil for the good I have done, and with hatred for my love." This is the ultimate injustice. To show kindness and receive hatred in return is a confusing and heartbreaking experience. David lays this injustice bare before God. It is from this place of deep hurt that he begins to call for justice. In verses 6 and 7, he cries out, Appoint a wicked man to stand against him. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is judged, let him be found guilty, and may his prayers be counted as sin. He is asking that his enemy be treated with the same wickedness he has shown. The prayer for justice continues with intensity. From verses 8 to 13, David asks that his enemy's life be cut short and his position be given to another. He asks that his children become fatherless and his wife a widow, that they wander as beggars. He asks that creditors take all his enemy possesses and that no one show him kindness. He prays, may his family line be cut off. May their names be erased in the next generation. These are incredibly harsh words. They are the words of a man pushed to his absolute limit, giving his raw desire for justice over to the one judge who is truly righteous and fair. David continues his prayer, asking that the sins of his enemy not be forgotten. He is not just focused on the man who hurt him, but on the generational pattern of wickedness. In verse 14 he prays, may the sins of his fathers be remembered by the Lord. May the sin of his mother never be erased. He is asking for a complete accounting of the evil that has been done. This is followed by verse 15. May their sins always be before the Lord, so that he may cut off the memory of them from the earth. He wants the injustice to be fully seen and judged by God, so that such evil can be removed from the world for good. He then explains why this judgment is deserved. The enemy was not just unkind, he was cruel and merciless. Verse 16 says, for he never thought to show any kindness, but he hunted down the poor, the needy, and the brokenhearted, to put them to death. This person took pleasure in harming the most vulnerable people. David sees this as the ultimate evil. Then, in verse 17, he continues, he loved to call down curses, so let curses fall on him. He did not delight in blessing, so let blessing be far from him. David is asking God to let the man reap what he has sown, to experience the same negativity he put out into the world. David paints a vivid picture of this curse. In verse 18 he says, he wore cursing like a piece of clothing. Let it soak into his body like water, and into his bones like oil. This is a powerful image. The curse isn't just something that happens to the man, it becomes a part of him, seeping into his very being. Verse 19 continues this idea. May it be like a cloak that he wraps around himself, like a belt he always wears. David is praying that the man's own evil would cling to him constantly, a permanent reminder of the choices he made. This is the divine justice he seeks from the Lord. After this intense plea for justice, David's focus shifts back to his own desperate situation. In verses 20 through 25, his tone changes from anger to vulnerability. He acknowledges that this judgment is from the Lord, but then he cries out for help. He describes himself as poor and needy with a wounded heart. He feels like he is fading away like an evening shadow and is shaken off like a locust. His body is weak from fasting, and he has become an object of scorn to his enemies. He lays his own suffering before God, asking for mercy, even as he asks for justice against those who have wronged him. Having poured out all his anger and pain, David now turns to a simple, direct plea for help. The storm of his rage has passed, and what remains is a humble request for mercy. He says in verse 26, "Help me, O Lord my God. Save me according to your unfailing love." This is the turning point of the entire psalm. After calling for curses, he now appeals to the one thing he knows he can trust, God's love. He is not asking to be saved because he is worthy, but because he knows that God is merciful. This is an act of pure faith, a surrender to God's character. David's desire is not just for his own rescue, it is also for God's glory. He wants everyone to see that his salvation comes from a divine source. He prays in verse 27, "Let them know that this is your hand, that you, O Lord, have done it." He wants his vindication to be assigned to his enemies. When God lifts him up, there will be no doubt that it was a divine act. This will prove that God is with him and that the lies spoken against him were false. His personal victory becomes a testimony to God's power and justice in the world. He then draws a sharp contrast between his enemies and God. In verse 28, he declares with confidence, "They may curse me, but you will bless me. When they attack, they will be put to shame, but your servant will rejoice." He is moved from fear to faith. He accepts that people may continue to speak evil against him, but he trusts that God's blessing is more powerful than any human curse. Let them try to bring him down. He knows that in the end, God will raise him up, and he will be the one left standing with joy in his heart. The psalm ends on a powerful note of praise and assurance. In verses 29 and 30, David proclaims that his enemies will be clothed in disgrace, while he will give great thanks to the Lord and praise him among the crowds. The final verse, 31, gives the reason for this hope. For he stands at the right hand of the needy to save their lives from those who would condemn them. David started the prayer feeling alone and abandoned, but he ends it with the certain knowledge that God is his defender. This is the ultimate comfort of Psalm 109. It shows that even when we feel our worst, God is right there beside us, ready to save.